They want people to think it's risky. They want people to think it's bad. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Doctors are affected just as much as anyone else. I used to naively think that healthcare was designed to help people, but now I see it for what it is. The salary increases are not matching the level of monetary debasement. So every year you're getting poorer. Every year you're having to hustle harder and harder, and it's never ending. Bitcoin is the light that's exposing the darkness in our world.
Welcome to the Bitcoin RX podcast. This is your host, Nurse Ralph. Today, I got with me Dr. Satoshi, who's going to help me give you a weekly dose of orange pill so you don't die from fiat disease. Dr. Satoshi, man, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited.
Of course, man. I appreciate you being here, man. This is great, man. Two healthcare workers talking about Bitcoin. I honestly I thought this was going to happen maybe in I don't know, 3-5 years from now, but it's amazing that this is happening right now, man. This is great.
Yeah, the timeline just seems to have accelerated like crazy just this last year. I think
Yeah.
all of us Bitcoiners can't really comprehend just how quickly everything has shifted, and the timeline, everything is just accelerated, and it's so incredible to be a part of it.
It is. No, I know. I love it, man. I hope to see more of us out here trying to help other people. Before we start talking about Bitcoin, of course, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey before Bitcoin, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so before I discovered Bitcoin, I was basically very deep in the fiat system. I remember being so stressed out in high school, just trying to get into a good college. And then in college, I was so stressed out just trying to get into medical school. And then even when I got to medical school and residency, I had to sacrifice a better part of my 20s. And now I've made it as a doctor, and I've been working as a hospitalist, which is a doctor who takes care of patients when they're admitted into the hospital for conditions such as heart attacks, strokes, or things like diabetic emergencies. And I've been doing that for about 15 years now. I can't believe it's already been 15 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Before I discovered Bitcoin, I was well respected, and I was making good money, and I was on the path that I had always envisioned for myself. So I never really questioned it, and I was happy and I was content. But I didn't even realize that I was so deep in the matrix, and I was basically living in this sort of unconscious drift. But once I had my Bitcoin awakening, it just completely changed the way I looked at everything in my life. It really just fundamentally rewired how I see the world, including healthcare. Because once I understood how broken our monetary system is, I started to see the exact same patterns in medicine. And I used to naively think that healthcare was designed to help people, but now I see it for what it is. It's basically a system rooted in manipulation and opacity. And it's not designed to make people well. It's designed to keep people dependent and extract maximum profit. So before Bitcoin, before I had this realization, I was treating patients, and I thought I was doing a good thing, and I wasn't questioning the system behind it. But Bitcoin gave me this new lens. And with that new lens, I started seeing how the incentives were just misaligned everywhere. Pharmaceutical companies, they don't profit when you're well, so they want you dependent on their pills. And then they fund medical schools to essentially indoctrinate and brainwash doctors into thinking that every condition needs a pill. And insurance companies don't reward prevention. And doctors are just so burned out that we don't even really have time to question things or think outside the box. And so Bitcoin really just taught me to ask what's real, what's true, and what are the deeper layers. And once you peel back the curtain just a little bit, you realize that real health doesn't come from a pill. It comes from basically taking ownership of your own health, taking ownership of your choices, eating real food, moving your body, getting sunlight, managing stress, and putting in the work, which is what people don't want to do. They don't want to put in the work. They want the pill. They want the magic pill.
They want something easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but easy sometimes means, I don't know. It's easy is not always the right solution. Sometimes you have to put in the work to keep yourself healthy. And what was it that sparked that curiosity into Bitcoin exactly?
Well, really, it was just a practical reason, because once I started making money, I realized that I had to figure out where the best place to put it was. And that highlights one of the other problems with the fiat system, is that as a doctor, I can't just focus on being a doctor and providing the best care for my patients and putting all my time into that. When I'm off, I now have to figure out where am I going to put my money, and that becomes a part-time job, almost a full-time job. And I wasn't trained in money. I wasn't trained in investing. So now in my spare time, when I'm tired after my shifts, I now have to put in all this time to do research and figure out where the best place my money is. And then you have to sort through um, what people tell you is the right place to put it, and versus what actually is the right place to put it. And so I am one who always has followed the rules and wanted to be safe and wanted to be prudent. So I read books like this book called I think it's called Boggleheads by Jack Bogle, the
Hmm.
founder of Vanguard. And
I don't
they're
think I
based.
read that one. Wait, what is it called again? Sorry, Bogglehead?
I think it's called Boggleheads.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And so before Bitcoin came around, the prudent thing to do was to follow advice from people like Jack Bogle, who is I believe is the founder of Vanguard, and he tells you about the 60/40 portfolio, the 70/30 portfolio in stocks and bonds, and not take any risks, and not try to time the market. Just put it in the S&P 500, and you'll end up ahead. And I think that advice actually did apply all the way up until Bitcoin came around, and all the way until our fiat system started to show more and more cracks. And so I basically was just putting my money in the S&P 500, trying to play it safe. And then COVID really opened my eyes, because I had always understood the stock market and the S&P 500 to be a reflection of how well the economy is doing. And so during COVID, the stock market crashed because the economy, nothing was open, and that made sense to me. And and then all of a sudden, just a couple months later, the stock market just came roaring back to all-time highs, despite everything being closed. And that just made no sense to me. That just completely um, made me question everything, and it made me realize I'm putting all of my life force, all of my energy into this S&P 500, into this system that supposedly had some sort of order to it. And in a most basic sense, if the economy's not doing well and things are closed, how is it possible that the stock market is at all-time highs? And that just made no sense to me. And that's what made me look into Bitcoin, um, and made me realize, once I started looking into Bitcoin, it made me realize, um, one, the biggest epiphany is just the amount of money printing that goes on. And when you connect money printing with debasement, essentially the more money they print, the less valuable your money becomes. It becomes almost like a life and death situation. Like, where are you going to store your life force? If you're putting it in this one system where it's always leaking and it's always being debased, then your life force is essentially dying. And so it's life or death. Where are you going to put your money? And Bitcoin has kind of got this reputation in society, because the powers that be are scared of it. They want people to think it's risky. They want people to think it's bad. But if you actually look into Bitcoin, it's the safest place to put your money, and there's not even a close second best.
That's yeah, no, that's actually well said. You need to give a speech at a few hospitals, man. No, that's actually true. That it really is like people look at it and like, oh my god, this thing is so volatile. It's like,
Yeah,
no, it's actually not. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. You know, it's
yeah,
volatile because you're comparing it in you're measuring it in a fiat system that just, it's like, I remember somebody said it once. It's like, people think that they are on an island looking at the waves, and then they're looking at a boat, and the boat is Bitcoin, and the boat is on a wavy ocean. But in
mhm,
reality, it's the people that are on the wavy ocean on the boat. and they're looking at Bitcoin on the island, and Bitcoin is stable. So we are the one floating, and Bitcoin is the most stable. I don't know if
I
that
love
made
that
sense. You know what I'm
analogy.
saying?
No, I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so true.
I heard that. I was like, wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible. That's a good way
that's
to put
great.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I love that. I love that. And I also wanted to ask you. So you so you learn all of this thing, right? What why even start a YouTube channel? Well, you could have just, you could have just learned all this and kept your mouth shut and just, you know, worked and save all your money into Bitcoin. But like, what's the point of, starting a YouTube channel? Why doing it?
Well, that's what I was doing at first. When I first discovered Bitcoin, I wasn't talking about it because at first I started to tell people about it, and then I always seemed to get the same reaction where people thought I was crazy or they didn't want to hear it. So then I basically just stopped talking about it, and then just kept consuming more and more information about Bitcoin. Essentially, my all of my free time is spent listening to Bitcoin podcasts, reading about Bitcoin, and it basically just became a huge part of my life. And the more I learned about it, the more I realized just how special it was, and how it was not just another investment, and how it was something that was going to change the course of humanity, and how lucky we are to be alive right now at the start of this humanity changing revolution. And I saw how it was changing my life for the better, and it really just touched something deep in my soul. And it was like a spiritual wake up call, and I started to see the world just completely differently. Not just money, but health. I started thinking about concepts like truth and freedom. Really, just the entire way that I saw the world changed. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And um, a lot of Bitcoiners realize the same thing, is that when Bitcoin touches you, you shift from being a consumer to a creator. And at some point, I realized that I couldn't just sit back and just consume and consume all day. I had to create. I had to share what I was seeing, and share what I was feeling, because I truly believe that Bitcoin is the most important thing happening in the world right now. And yet it's still so misunderstood. Most people still think it's just some speculative asset or a get rich quick scheme. But once you really understand what Bitcoin is and what it represents for humanity, it just changes everything. And I feel like people need to at least be given the opportunity to look into it. And yeah, it's not just about money, it's about a shift in consciousness. It's a peaceful revolution. It allows people to reclaim their time, their energy, their freedom. And if people could just truly grasp what it is and not what the media tells them it is, I know it would change their lives, and not just financially, but spiritually, mentally, physically.
Yeah.
So
100%. No, 100%
yeah,
agree, man. It is like
yeah,
once you go down that rabbit hole, like it's
yeah,
like you can't go back to that old system, man.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
actually like, yeah, you just like, oh my God, like you feel like this is the first time your eyes are like
yeah,
actually open.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
wild to
100%.
think about. But you
Yeah,
can't it's not it almost feels like this is not something you can explain to somebody. Like they
yeah,
have to go through that experience themselves. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
they have to do their own homework basically. They have to do it themselves. You can bring them to the water, but they have to be the one to drink.
yeah.
So that's, yeah, no,
Which
that's well said.
it's frustrating at times, but yeah, what I've realized is that you can just be one touch point for them. And I think I often get frustrated. Other Bitcoiners get frustrated that we can't just immediately orange pill someone immediately, but we have to kind of shift our mindset and think you're going to just be one touch point, and it might just sit in the back of their subconscious for a bit, but then they get another touch point later on, and then those touch points add up. So if you just think of it like that, then it kind of makes it a little bit less frustrating, at least for me.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, because sometimes I feel like there are times where I feel like it takes I agree with you. It takes like definitely way more than one time to mention Bitcoin for somebody to get it for sure. Like even for my family, sometimes I think
Hmm.
my closest family, it took, phew, I mean, I lost count. It took me so many tries before they finally understood what Bitcoin actually was. I mean, even for myself, it took me a while.
Yeah.
Like the first time I heard about it, I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna, I'm
Yeah.
gonna buy some, and then I'm gonna hope it goes up in fiat term. Now I'm just like, I want as much as possible because I don't want fiat anymore. Like I want this money. Like this is like
Yeah.
I'm just transitioning. Like I save in Bitcoin because I want less fiat now. I don't want any of that fiat anymore. So
Mhm.
no, that's well said. And I wanted to ask you. I saw that you started a podcast, and I absolutely love that. And
Yeah.
your first episode with Gen Z, you
Yeah.
mentioned the video Element Zero. Man,
Oh, man.
dude, yo, I went and watched that after you mentioned that
Yeah.
video,
Yeah, you
and
did? Oh,
my
man. Right?
brain was,
I
oh my
told you.
god, yo, like yo,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm orange peeled all over again. No, honestly, I
Man,
was
that
like,
video is
what?
insane.
Yeah, no, that,
Yeah.
that was there, and I was like,
Yeah.
wait, like, no, that was it felt too smart for me. I watched it again. I was
Yeah.
like, what? Like, how did you come across that? That's crazy.
Man, I don't even know. Just one night, I was just on YouTube, and it just showed up in my feed, and I think possibly because the guy who created it, Yoni Appelberg, he's a doctor, and maybe the algorithm knows that I'm a doctor and I'm a Bitcoiner, and maybe that's how it connected me to him. But it's crazy because he's got such a small channel, and most people haven't heard of him.
Very
But
underrated.
oh man, that video, Element Zero. So my brain is still trying to figure out the deeper meaning behind that. But it's videos like that that show you that Bitcoin is so much bigger than just money. There is something way deeper going on here. It's spiritual, and it's changing the way we see the world. Because essentially the idea behind Element Zero is that Bitcoin doesn't exist in the physical realm. It doesn't have protons or neutrons or electrons, but yet Satoshi was able to develop a system where it's able to bind electricity despite not existing in the physical world, and therefore it exists in the informational realm, in the digital realm, and it's able to exert an effect on the physical realm despite not existing in that realm. And that concept is so deep to me because it also connects to the quantum model of reality, where we think that we're living in this physical world and that's all that there is. But the physical world, quantum physics shows that the physical world is only 0.001% of what exists. The other 99.99% is these other realms, these informational realms, these quantum realms, and we have such limited understanding of that. But yet the information in those realms that are outside the physical realm are shaping the physical realm. So we don't have we have very little understanding of those realms, and Bitcoin essentially exists in those realms, in the informational realm, and it's exerting an effect on the physical realm. And so it's just a part of getting a deeper understanding of the other forces that are in our world, and how it's not just this physical world, and how it's so much deeper, and it's spiritual, and it just opens up so many layers.
Right. Oh yeah. Now, like if anybody watching this video, please go watch that video from Yoni Appelberg. Man,
Yeah.
it is honestly I mean, I don't know if it will make sense to, like, non-chemists or non-healthcare workers, but I mean it made
Yeah.
sense to me. Like, I mean, I was a biology degree before I became a nurse. I had the pre-pharmacy degree, so I was very much, into chemistry a lot. But then
Mhm.
I watched that video, I was like, what? Like, yeah, no, this is it really, I don't know, it opened my eyes in a different, like, I felt like now I'm more bullish on Bitcoin after watching that, to be
Oh
honest with
yeah,
you.
100%.
It's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely wild. I
Yeah.
wanted to talk to you about healthcare, actually,
Mhm.
health and all that. Hopefully we don't get our license suspended for for
No,
talking too much about this, but
I worry about that a little bit, but
yeah.
what I've realized is that the truth just has to come out.
Oh
You
yeah.
cannot live in fear.
Yeah,
And
it's so
yeah.
go no, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, there's this I watched this clip with RFK Jr. where
Uh-huh.
they interview him, and they're asking, "Do you ever worry about getting assassinated?" Because
Mm,
his dad and his uncle got assassinated, and
yeah.
he's exposing a lot of these truths that
Mhm.
would seem to put him in a pretty precarious position.
Yeah.
And he said my parents just raised me to not live in fear.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized too, is that we cannot live in fear. We have to expose the truth.
Right. No, I agree. No, that's deep. That's deep for real. Yeah. No, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about this real quick. Since you know you're a doctor, I'm a nurse. You prescribe, I give. So tell me about this. So a lot of people still don't think that Bitcoin has anything to do with health at all. Just give us a basic understanding of like how fiat corrupts our healthcare system, basically, because I know you made a recent video about that and how it's linked to how those two are linked together. Like, just give us a basic explanation, like how is that actually?
So once you see the corruption in fiat money, you realize that basically the corrupted fiat money corrupts everything that it touches. So fiat doesn't just corrupt money, it corrupts everything, including health, including food systems. Because when money is broken, it creates these misaligned incentives. And in a fiat world, it becomes all about profit, not about truth, not about well-being. If you just look at food, the companies are incentivized to create cheap, addictive, ultra-processed products because they have higher profit margins. And governments subsidize crops like corn and soy, which then get turned into high fructose corn syrup and seed oils, which have now become the foundation of the standard American diet. And the reason that they create these products and push these products so heavily is because it's so cheap to produce them at scale. And the system basically incentivizes them to produce everything for as cheap as they possibly can. And then on the health side, it's really not about healthcare. It's about sick care. So the system profits when people stay chronically ill, and pharma makes money treating symptoms, not by solving the root causes. And doctors are overworked and they're stuck filling out paperwork and doing billing instead of actually healing. And so when the money is fake, the food becomes fake, the health advice becomes fake, and the outcomes are fake. And Bitcoin fixes this because it realigns the incentives around truth and transparency and long-term thinking, as opposed to just being so short-sighted and just being all about money and profit at the expense of the patient, at the expense of the person, of the individual.
Have you seen the video "What's the Problem" by Joe
Yeah.
Bryant?
Yeah, that's
remember, I don't know if you remember, he said something like how a healthy patient or a cure customer is a lost customer. That's basically what that reminds me of. Like, it's like, they're literally not incentivized to like cure anybody anymore. It's like, hey, like, I want this person on my medication for the rest of their life, and that's basically what we're doing. It's and go ahead.
The system really it's not designed to heal. It's designed to manage, to keep people dependent. Because that's where the money is.
Right.
When you have someone with chronic illness, they're on endless prescriptions, endless follow-up visits, and those are all recurring revenue streams. It's pretty disillusioning once you see it, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Just like with Bitcoin and with fiat money, it's the exact same thing going on in fiat healthcare. And it's not about individual doctors being bad and not wanting to do good for the patient.
Hello. Can you hear me all right?
Hey, I'm sorry, my it just totally crashed on me, and I can't seem to get up. But I'm just on my phone now. Are you still able to hear me? I'm so sorry, man. We were just killing it right in the middle of everything.
I know, man.
Okay, I think it popped back up. Let me see if I get back on my setup.
Oh yeah, and we are back.
All right.
No, I was like, man, of course that got interrupted.
Our conversation was fire, and then it got dropped.
I know. I still wanted to ask you another question about diet and health, actually, because I know the internet is not gonna want us to talk about this, but I'm still gonna ask. But as far as like your view, of course, I'm not asking for medical advice or anything like that, but based on what you've seen so far, what would you say? I know not everybody can be on the best diet, and I mean on the exact same diet, I guess. But like, based on what you've seen so far, what do you think would be an ideal diet for a typical person? Like, because I know the what is it, the pyramid food thing is, I mean, we know it's it's crap. Like it's not supposed
Yeah.
to be like this. And I don't know. Have you read the book Fiat Food by any chance?
I haven't read it yet, but I've heard a
Oof.
lot of great things about it, and
Oh,
yeah,
you should put that on your list
yeah,
next.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah. It's pretty good. Not gonna lie, it's pretty
yeah,
good. But yeah, what do you think about a typical? What would be your non-medical advice about a
yeah.
good healthy diet?
So this topic really just exemplifies all the problems that we're talking about, because you talk about the food pyramid, and the food pyramid is one of the greatest scams ever sold to the public. And it's very disillusioning to think that the government doesn't have your best interest in mind. You think they put out these guidelines in the food pyramid, and you think if you just follow what the government said, you assume that there were experts that did studies, and that the reason they're putting this information out there is because it's going to be good for you, and if that's the food pyramid, then some expert must have said or done studies and shown that that's the optimal way for you to eat. But when you look at it, when you have the Bitcoin lens, and then you peel it back a little bit and you look into health, you realize that the food pyramid was never about health, and it was just all about profit. Because at the base of the pyramid, they tell us to eat 6 to 11 servings of grains a day. Meanwhile, there's seed oils, sugar, and processed carbs that just get flooded into our diets because of this recommendation. And if you look back at why they want this stuff to get flooded into our diets, it's because some corporation is making money from pushing all of these things. And they don't even care that because we've added all these things into our diet, that it's caused a tremendous rise in rates of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Those have all just exploded. I see it every day, and it's getting worse and worse. And what people don't realize is that the food pyramid was heavily influenced by lobbying from big agriculture and big food, and it's basically just a fiat creation. It's cheap, mass-produced products with long shelf life, and they push it as healthy because they make money, and it has nothing to do with what actually is going to nourish you. And so what's crazy is that a healthy diet is simple. They've made it so confusing, and they've made you think that you have to do all this research, and you have to look at all these labels, and it's actually very simple what a healthy diet is. And again, this is not medical advice, but it's basically just going back to what's real: whole foods, quality protein, healthy fats, local produce. Basically, just eat like your great grandparents did. Eat things like meat, eggs, seasonal fruit, and avoid anything that comes in a box or has a commercial. And then those are pretty good guidelines to go by. And the goal is metabolic sovereignty. You want to fuel your body with truth. You don't want to fuel your body with marketing tricks.
Yeah, yeah. I also wanted to ask you, like, do you find it hard for you to be a doctor now sometimes? Like, are you still practicing, by the way? I never asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So
It okay.
yeah. Before I had this awakening,
Mhm,
I've always been a hustler, and I've
mhm,
always worked
mhm.
so hard. And so I was channeling all of that energy and that dedication and hard work into being a doctor and into the fiat system. I was picking up extra shifts and just working like crazy and putting all that energy into the fiat system. And once I had this Bitcoin awakening, I realized that this was not the place for me to put my energy. And for one, it was just crushing my soul. And for two, and secondly, I realized that if I'm putting my energy into the fiat system, that's energy that's not going into the Bitcoin system. And so that's part of this shift into creating Dr. Satoshi and creating this YouTube channel, is taking that energy that I was putting into the hospital shifts and being a doctor and putting it into the Bitcoin system. So I've cut back my hours tremendously. I was working like double shifts. Now I'm basically down to half time, and I've been thinking about this kind of from a philosophical perspective. Like, you hear about Bitcoiners completely removing themselves from the fiat system and then just going into the Bitcoin system. And that is the goal. That is the end term goal. We're building parallel systems, and um, there's this idea that to compete with the fiat system, you actually don't need to compete with it. You just need to build a parallel system, and that just makes the fiat system irrelevant. And we'll get there eventually. But and there are people that are living in the Bitcoin world, and that's a beautiful thing, and that is something to aspire to. But I think for a majority of people, we have to figure out how we're going to navigate these two worlds and how we're going to bridge the two worlds. And for Bitcoiners like you and I think there's a huge role for us to take what we've learned and and help be that bridge. And we don't we're actually doing a disservice if we just completely remove ourselves from the fiat system and say, "You guys, sorry guys, you guys are screwed. We're over here and we're good." But our role is to be an intermediary and to help people in the fiat world come over into the Bitcoin world. And this transition period might last for a very long time. So it's kind of a false dichotomy in terms of do you have to be in the fiat world or Bitcoin world? So what I've done is I try to instill Bitcoin principles into my work as a doctor. So when I work as a doctor, I have to follow the rules of the system, and there's protocols, and it does frustrate me at times, but there is room for me to bring my Bitcoin ethos and that Bitcoin energy to my patients and empower them and give them honest information within the fiat system. So it's not this dichotomy. There's a you can figure out how to incorporate Bitcoin into what you do, and eventually we'll all go to a Bitcoin standard, and the fiat system will be shown to be irrelevant. But for now, we do live in a fiat world, and the greatest thing we can do is share our Bitcoin knowledge and bring it into the into the fiat world.
Sometimes I think about just like, I'm like, you know what if I don't, why don't I just like post on Noster and just completely
Yeah.
ignore YouTube? But then it's like,
Uh,
if I go on Noster, it's not like there are a lot of people on there that are, a lot of nurses or doctors or other people that need, on Noster is
yeah.
basically mostly Bitcoiners. So it's kind of like, I feel like it's unfair for me to just be like, okay, screw the
Right.
system. I'm just gonna
Right.
transition and leave everybody behind. So I understand what you mean by like, it is you feel like it's your duty to
Mhm.
still spread the message and trying to help the others. And I find that sometimes hard at my job as well, because sometimes I'm like, I hear I hear people talk about the struggle. I'm like, I hear
Mhm.
you, but like nobody's willing to open their mind about like
Mhm.
the real like nobody's looking at the problem. Everybody's like
Mhm.
blaming the current administration. They blaming
Mhm.
this, they blaming that, but like they're not willing to like sit down and actually see like, oh, like it's it's the money. Like it's like, I'm like, sometimes I even send my videos to people. I'm like, hey, like it's watch this, and it just totally goes over their head. They just like, oh, it's just another nurse talking about some scam coin or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, I feel like it, like we said in the beginning, not everybody's like, you can't really force them to take that pill. They have
Yeah.
to go on that journey by themselves. They have to like really drink the water. You
Yeah.
cannot force them to drink that water. And yeah, no, that's
It's so sad too because like I see it with my doctor colleagues, and you would think that a doctor, they make good money, they would be kind of immune to some of the problems that we're talking about with the fiat system, but they're not at all. Doctors are affected just as much as anyone else, and I see it with my colleagues. And if I didn't know about Bitcoin, I would be in the same situation as they are. And it's not a good place to be. Basically, every year, the salary increases are not matching the level of monetary debasement. So every year you're getting poorer, and so every year you're having to hustle harder and harder, and it's never ending. So it basically what what it comes down to as a doctor is you end up having to see more patients.
mhm.
Every year you have to see more and more patients,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
that is not sustainable.
Yeah. At some point you're
And
gonna break. Yeah.
yeah, the system's going to break, the person is going to break, and so I see the level of stress just increasing from year to year with my colleagues. Whereas with myself, because I've moved all my energy into the Bitcoin system, I don't have that stress. I know that my purchasing power is going to increase over time, and they don't consciously realize it, but they can feel that their purchasing power is decreasing over time, and that creates this low level stress. Whereas I've got more of this inner peace because I know I can just sit back and I'm not going to have to be on that hamster wheel. I'm not going to have to be in that rat race and keep seeing more and more because I know that Bitcoin is going to allow me to have increased purchasing power over time. And that's subtle. That is not subtle at all. That is huge. If you know that you're going to have more purchasing power versus you're going to have less purchasing power, the less purchasing power is basically like um, being on a boat that's sinking, and people feel that, and that gets incorporated into your body, into your soul, and it manifests as depression, health issues, and so it's that's why um, this 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 Bitcoin awakening is so much bigger than just money. It's about your soul and the survival and health of your soul.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Oh yeah. Do you ever worry that we're wrong about Bitcoin? What if we are wrong? Do you ever think about that sometimes?
I do think about that sometimes, and I think it's
Yeah.
good to think about that sometimes
Yeah.
um, because people who are in cults don't realize that they're in cults.
Yeah.
And so if we were just to not think about the possibility that Bitcoin might fail, then
Yeah.
we would essentially be in a cult. What's the difference between that and a cult? But
Yep.
I think that's the beauty of Bitcoin is that there's everyone who has done the research and everyone who has looked into it,
Mhm.
no one has ever been able to come up with any kind of legitimate cause for it to fail. The
Mhm.
the only reason for it to fail at this point would be existential, like a meteor hitting the Earth,
Right.
or us being in some kind of apocalypse.
Yep.
But beyond that, it's it almost is too good to be true, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why I do think about what you're saying a lot. Like,
Yeah.
are we missing something here?
Right.
But
Right.
you look at the smartest people in the world
Yeah.
have had these same thoughts, and the smartest people in the world have have dedicated their lives to trying to figure out if there's something that we're missing, and so far no one has been able to find anything. I
Right.
just watched this clip of some well-known person in the Bitcoin space. I can't remember exactly who it was, but he basically talked about how he went through this period where he went 3 months where he was
Mhm.
just every waking hour was just spent reading about Bitcoin, learning about Bitcoin, trying to find a flaw to the point where
Mm.
he was not eating. He
Oh.
lost like 30
Yep.
pounds because he just went deep in this rabbit hole and was like, what is this? What am I missing? Is this really here? Is this too good to be
Yeah.
true?
Yep. That's actually wild. I feel like that
Yeah.
that was almost me because I was like,
Yeah.
I feel like when I first learned about it, I could not sleep. I was just
Yeah.
like, this is
Yeah.
like, I felt like I just discovered like the greatest thing ever. I was like,
Mhm.
there's no way. I was trying to find everything that could possibly go wrong with this thing,
Yeah.
and like you said, I couldn't find any. And I was like, oh well, I guess I'm putting my entire wealth in there. Like at this point, it wasn't even
Yeah.
like I wasn't even saying like YOLO. It was more like, well, it looks like this boat is sinking and I need to do everything in my power to move everything over here because it's like the Titanic is going. Do you want to go find the most luxurious room in there while the boat is sinking, or do you want to find one of those survival boats so you can get
Mhm.
out of there? And I was like, yeah, I'm out of there. And it's the same thing. Like it's
Yeah.
like the single time I think about like what like am I could I be wrong about this? Like like is there a way? And then I always find myself like thinking about the fiat system all over again. I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I do Bitcoin. Like it's like
Mhm.
I keep thinking something is wrong with Bitcoin where there's something wrong with what we're doing right now. I always forget
Yeah.
that. Oh, like there's something wrong here already. Why am I thinking about like what I'm saying? Like I don't
Yeah.
know if that makes sense. Like
No, yeah,
I
it
just
definitely does.
yeah, like it's just I don't know. Yeah, it just it does make you think a lot
Yeah.
because there's still a lot more people that you think are smarter than you. Like
Yeah.
guys like I don't know if you follow Dave Ramsey at all or like other like
Yeah.
financial YouTubers,
Mhm.
and you're like if these guys they have the money, they have the people, they have the resources, why don't they get it? Like, like why don't
Mhm.
they do the research? How come I'm a nurse working 40 hours a week?
Mhm.
I got it before you. Like, what am I like? What like something doesn't click here? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, no,
know.
I've had those exact same thoughts, and I sometimes get a little, angry about it too, because I looked to these gurus for financial advice, thinking they were guiding me in the right direction, and so when I was first trying to figure out what to do with my money, I read books and looked up to people like Warren Buffett, and when Warren Buffett says Bitcoin is rat poison, that left a huge impact on me, and that probably caused me to dismiss Bitcoin for years, um, before I was able to finally reevaluate it. And that's that causes me to be a little bit angry, because I know there's so many other people that listen to people like Warren Buffett and Dave Ramsey, and they're outsourcing their thinking. So if these experts tell them Bitcoin is bad, then they will never be able to open their minds to it. And so many people um, are being held back from discovering this truly transformational, um, this truly transformational technology that could really make their lives better. And what when you ask me that question, and in thinking about it, what really makes me think that Bitcoin is inevitable, and it can't fail, is that it's rooted in truth. And I believe that truth always will prevail. It's almost like a battle between good and evil. Fiat is basically evil. It's built on lies, manipulation, and control. But Bitcoin is transparent, it's fair, it's honest. And I've always been an optimist, and deep down, I do believe that good prevails over bad. It might take time, and there might be resistance, and there definitely has been resistance, and there's going to be more resistance. But I truly believe that systems that are built on deception cannot last, and they will collapse eventually. And I think a lot of people feel that intuitively as well, even if they can't really put it into words. And so Bitcoin is the reason that I don't think it's going to fail, is that it's not just some tech innovation. It really is a spiritual shift. It's like a light in the dark, and that's why I'm here on YouTube, because I want to help people see that light. There's there's this quote that says, "Everything that light touches turns into light," and so Bitcoin is the light that's exposing the darkness in our world. And as it exposes and reveals this darkness, it's turning that darkness into light. And so if you look at central banking and inflation, for example, most people never questioned it. I never questioned it, and I didn't understand how money printing was silently stealing my time and energy. But Bitcoin was the light that exposed it, and now people are learning what money really is, and how inflation works, and how the system is rigged to benefit a few at the expense of everyone else. And that awareness is huge. That awareness, it's the first step, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's the transformation, and that's the darkness turning into light. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin too, is that it doesn't fight with force. All it does is just serve as a mirror to reveal the truth. And when
Amen. Amen. That wow, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Thank you. No,
No.
Bitcoin just gets me so fired up. It's like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's so powerful. There's something so deeply spiritual about it.
Agreed. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and the spiritual side of it too is the song that I've been a little bit more interested about too. It's kind of like, I think I don't know if you listen to the Bitcoin Edge with Paula.
Oh yeah, I
She
love
always,
that. I
yeah,
love
oh
that
yeah, same here,
podcast.
man. She always asks is there a spiritual side to Bitcoin at the end of her podcast? And I always not started thinking more about it, and I'm like, I mean, because I don't always want to associate spiritual with religion,
Yeah.
but but then again, I did a podcast with her last week, and I was thinking about how even if you associated spirituality with religion, even then Bitcoin is more like, I remember telling her that at the base of every religion, it's basically trying to do good to others, and being
Mhm.
good to your neighbors, and being good to the
Mhm.
world, And that's basically that's what Bitcoin and incentivize people to do. Basically, it's like,
Mhm.
it's like, for example, you started a podcast. Like, I don't see you as a competitor. I'm like, oh wow, like
Yeah.
you're actually helping strengthen the network. Like,
Right.
I love that you're doing this too. Like, I'm like,
Mhm.
this is perfect, because you are helping other people just like I'm helping other people. And I see it as like, it's like little, like you like setting stones into creating some
Mhm.
sort of protection against, like, against this like evil out there. And I don't know,
Mhm.
I just love it. Like, I think the spiritual side of Bitcoin is like just like helping other people, basically. It brings
Yeah.
people together to help other people. And I
Mhm.
love that. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, because I'm so new to YouTube, and I'm a doctor. I have no idea
Yeah.
how to do the social media stuff. I'm kind of learning things as I go and trying to figure
Yeah.
out where I want to take this channel.
Yep.
And it's that spiritual side to it that really calls to me.
Yep.
And so I think that's the direction that I'm going to take my channel is
Oh
is
yeah.
focusing on the spiritual aspect of Bitcoin.
Yep.
Because whenever I talk about it, everyone just gets so fascinated and curious about it.
Yep.
And other Bitcoiners, they feel it, and
Yeah.
they they haven't really thought about it or haven't been able to put it into words, but
Yeah.
it's there, and there's
Yeah.
something very, very powerful there.
It is. It is. It is. Because
Yeah.
we originally, at first, we always think of, we relate Bitcoin to money, but then
Mhm.
it's not. It's not. It really is not just about money.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's really not. It is way deeper than money. Oh yeah, like it's way more than, like, I don't think there's a single word that can describe what Bitcoin is really, because it how, like, my
Mhm.
shirt says, fix the money, fix the world. It's like, it
Yeah.
really just fixes. Like, I know we say, oh, Bitcoin fixes this, like, Bitcoin truly does fix it.
Mhm.
Well, to me, it feels like it could fix almost every problem in the world
Mhm.
if we do fix the money. And that's how I feel about it, really. Like, it's just something that, even from, like, even like, things that people in America don't think about. Like, for example, I spent the first 16 years of my life in Haiti. and
Mhm.
and it's like, even third world countries being affected by, like, the IMF, for example. Bitcoin
Mhm.
fixes that too,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like, if you don't know the history of how the
Mhm.
IMF affected, like, third world country with those crazy loans. Like, people don't think about this because they live in a, America is a great country. We don't think about these things.
Mhm.
We think, all these countries, they unlucky, they get, hit with
Mhm.
whatever. But, like, it's all about the money. It's the money
Mhm.
that affected their the government, the corruption, and all of that. So there is so much to Bitcoin, man. It's absolutely insane.
The other part about it being deeply spiritual
Mhm.
is I think it is important to make a distinction between spirituality and religion, because I'm not talking
Yes.
about it in a religious sense.
Right.
I'm talking
Right.
about it basically in the sense that it aligns with the natural laws of the universe.
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
It's built on truth. There's no
Yeah.
manipulation. There's no
Yeah.
distortion. Like
Yep.
when you're talking about the IMF coming into these countries, that's
Yep.
all manipulation. That's all distortion. That's
Mhm.
not how things exist in the natural state of the universe.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin is just pure math. It's transparent.
Yep.
There's integrity,
Mhm.
and our world is just it's so manipulated and
Mhm.
so fake. The
Yeah.
money, the media. We're talking about medicine. So
Mhm.
Bitcoin really is this quiet force of honesty, and yeah, it's not just about money. It's changed how I think, how I live, how I see myself. So when you talk about Bitcoin changing the world, it's because I think about this too. I think that inevitably Bitcoin is so powerful, it's just going to fix everything. But a big part of the reason why it will fix everything is that it fixes ourselves. There's this concept called self Bitcoinization. That's this doctor named Noah Kaufman, who puts out some stuff in the Bitcoin community. He's got this book called Self Bitcoinization. It hasn't been released yet, but the basic concept is that Bitcoin changes you. You don't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes you. And every Bitcoiner that I talk to talks about this shift in how it turns you into a better person, and it realigns you spiritually. It takes you out of this fiat materialistic world and into a world where your soul can start to think about what it really wants to do to contribute to the world, and it aligns your values, and your whole life just shifts. So yeah, when you say Bitcoin is not just money, it's not just technology. It's a spiritual path, and it's a way to opt out of all the noise and just live in truth. And our soul can feel it. Our soul wants to go to truth. And so everyone's going to find Bitcoin eventually, and it's the world is going to be such a better place because we're living from a place of truth and in a place that's aligned with the natural laws of the universe.
Yeah. And how else has Bitcoin changed you? Actually talking about that.
Yeah. So it's changed so much more than just my finances. It's changed me as a person completely. It's rewired how I think, how I live, how I show up in the world. I mentioned at the beginning that before Bitcoin, I was kind of living in this unconscious state, not questioning anything. I had a good job, was making good money, but something did feel off. And so Bitcoin caused me to wake up and see the truth behind all of the illusions. Um, so so yeah, it's changed how I handle my money. I, um, basically took everything out of the fiat system and into the Bitcoin system. Changed how I view health. It taught me to question everything, even question the media, question my own habits and beliefs. It's caused me to take radical responsibility for my life. It's given me a deeper sense of purpose. Um, I'm no longer just chasing comfort or status, and I no longer am working to to buy a big house or cars. I'm working to figure out what's meaningful to me and what I can contribute to the world. So I've just completely shifted from a consumer into a creator, and I went from being this compliant citizen who didn't question everything to becoming more of just a sovereign human being.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And have you been kind of successful at like orange pilling your friends and family around you?
I've tried, and it's been frustrating, and I'm still trying to figure out the best approach for this. It for my coworkers and friends, I've I'll talk about it, but it just seems like I'm met with the same resistance, and it's the same resistance that I had. So I understand it. I had the exact same resistance. Everyone goes through the same phases, and it's Michael Saylor talks about these phases that people go through. Everyone starts as a denier or skeptic. Everyone. That's normal. So the key is to not get stuck there, not think that just because you have these thoughts about Bitcoin that you need to stay there. And that's what I think that's what the difference is between people who who eventually come to Bitcoin and people that don't. People that are so firm in their beliefs, when you first believe something, if you're just going to stick with that and you don't have the flexibility to update your beliefs, then you're going to be stuck there. But if you understand that being a denier and a skeptic is normal, everyone goes through that, and allow yourself to go through the phases. So I went from a denier skeptic into a trader, and thinking I could make money off it by buying it and selling it for a higher price, and then becoming an investor, realizing that it actually is a good place to store my wealth. And then you go from an investor into a maxi, where you realize you start thinking in terms of Bitcoin terms and not dollar terms. So you're no longer thinking of it as an investment, like you're going to sell it at some point and make money. You realize that you would never sell it. What are you going to sell it for? And then once you become a maxi, then the next stage is to become an advocate, and that's kind of like what you and I are in now. We realize that we have to spread this message, and so I think the key is putting it out there, and like you said earlier, people are going to come to it at their own time. Michael Saylor says Bitcoin is on a need to know basis. So you come to it when you've got some kind of reason in your life to figure it out. If you don't have a reason, then you'll never understand it. And that's kind of gets back to what you were talking about before about Dave Ramsey. He doesn't have a reason. His whole life is made on giving financial advice based on this old paradigm. So his whole livelihood is threatened by this new thing coming along. So he doesn't have a reason.
Right, right. And other than that, like What else do you do for fun other than Bitcoin and YouTube?
Yeah. So I'm getting married actually in 2 months.
Oh,
So right now, my fiance and
congrats,
I
man.
are working on planning the wedding, and
Nice. Good luck
uh,
with that,
yeah.
man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
That's
Yeah,
gonna be stressful, but
yeah,
that's a great, great thing, man.
yeah. So I'm gonna get married, and then we're gonna start having kids and start
Nice,
building a
nice,
family. And
nice.
um, at the Bitcoin conference, there was this talk about um, raising raising a Bitcoin family,
Yeah.
and this whole Bitcoin journey I've been on has really made me realize how I really want to do things differently. I don't want to just follow the norm and get into the rat race and fall victim to keeping up with the Joneses. So my whole life path has been um, I've been changing how I think about my life unfolding, and that seems to be a very common thing with other Bitcoiners. Is we have our life path and we think that that's how it's going to be, but Bitcoin just causes you to reevaluate everything. And for me, it's made me realize that I don't want to just keep going down that path. There's so many possibilities. There's infinite possibilities. And so Bitcoin has made me realize that I want my life to be more of an adventure, not a cookie cutter path. I want it to be this nonstop adventure.
Right,
And
right. I love to hear. It's the same. I feel like it's the same thing for me too. Where before Bitcoin, it's like I was thinking about like, oh man, it's gonna be so expensive to raise a kid, to do all of this,
mhm,
and now that I'm like, oh my god, I feel like I've fixed the biggest
mhm,
problem that I've
yeah,
had, which is like storing my
mhm,
money. Now I'm
yeah,
like, dude, I want 10 kids. Like I'm ready for it. Like just
yeah,
give it. I want to raise a big family, man. I know you just I'm ready. Like
yeah,
I'm ready. I want to raise great human beings,
mhm,
bring them into the world so that they can change the world, fix the world. Like I want I don't know, man. Like now I'm like
mhm,
my stress level is like, I mean, I'm not gonna say zero, but like it went from like here to basically
mhm,
I'll say a 1 out of
yeah.
10 now,
Oh
so it's
man,
kind of
yeah.
it's so good, but then I don't know. I don't know how to help more people yet. I'm not the best orange pillar, I guess. So
Mhm,
I don't know. I'm trying though. I'm trying. I'm
yeah.
trying. Um
Yeah, what you mentioned there with
mhm.
how your mindset shift
Yeah,
towards having kids, it went from being anxious and scared to and potentially allowing those feelings to cause you to not have kids to this new state of mind where now you're ready to just have 10 kids. That is just one example of how Bitcoin is going to transform our world and make our world a better place. Because right now I hear it from people every day, all the time, that they feel like they can't afford to have kids. And how sad is that our money system is causing us to not reproduce? One of the most basic things in humanity and one of the most beautiful things in the world, bringing a child into the world and having a family, people can't do that. Taking that away from people is such a travesty and it's so wrong. But Bitcoin allows people to completely change how they live their life. And now this is very common. People that are Bitcoiners, they echo exactly what you said. Now they want to have big families, and their life shifts from putting their energy into work towards their family. And
yeah.
that's how it should be. That's how our society is going to thrive.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like no, that's exactly my thought process really. And other than that, any other big messages, anything that we did not cover that you feel like you would like people that are going to be watching this podcast to know?
Yeah. So the beauty of Bitcoin is that it's so much deeper than money. It's what it allows you to feel within yourself. This idea of sovereignty. That's what I really um, appreciate about Bitcoin the most is how it introduced me to the concept of sovereignty and made me realize that I was just outsourcing my thinking, outsourcing my power to these systems that don't have my best interest in mind. So so what I wanted to say is that um, just think about how you're outsourcing your power, and stop outsourcing your power. Stop looking to these external systems, whether it's medicine, money, or institutions, or even other people. Stop looking to them for validation or direction or safety. Everything that you're looking for is already inside of you. So I just say trust your instincts, and if there's a voice that says something's off, it's not crazy. That's your compass. Don't ignore it. Don't try to play safe. Don't try to just fit in. And just remind yourself that your energy is so valuable. Your energy is your most valuable asset, and your money is your energy. So protect it and invest it in things that align with truth. So it's not just about stacking sats or making money. It's about becoming sovereign and becoming the kind of person who lives with integrity, purpose, and courage.
I love that, man. I love that. I love that. That's amazing. And I always have one last question that I ask all my guests, and it's if you had to go back in time and give yourself advice, with other than buying more Bitcoin, of course, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself to just question things, to just don't take things at face value, and just don't be skeptical to the point where it's turning you into a negative person, but just be a critical thinker, and just don't take things at face value, and realize that just because um, people in authority tell you something doesn't mean that it's true, and doesn't mean that you need to accept it. You really need to trust your instincts and do your own research.
Yep. I like that. I like that, man. Thanks again for your time, Dr. Satoshi. I appreciate it, man. Where can people find you, man, if they need to reach out to you?
So the best place to find me is on YouTube. My
Yep.
YouTube is Dr. Satoshi, and I also have an Instagram. It's at Dr. Satoshi Wellness.
Nice.
So that's where they can find me now. And then I'm going to start building out my website, and a lot of big things to come for sure.
Nice. I love it, man. Can't wait to see it, man. Can't wait to see it, man. Once again, I appreciate your time, man, and I'm gonna see you in the next one, man.
Yeah. We definitely got to do this again sometime. And thank you so much for having me. This conversations with Bitcoiners just always get me fired up, and that's why I started this channel, and that's why you started the channel. And
yeah,
I
love it. Absolutely.
Who knows what the future has in store? There's just I'm so optimistic about the future.
Yep. Same here, man. Same here.